Welcome back to Tech Garage. Tell you what, the steering rack is just about ready to come out. We've got one primary bolt loose, second one still intact to hold everything steady. We've got the driver's side tie rod disconnected, the passenger side loosened up. Let me drop it. Now, here's a little tip. My dad always said use the right tool for the job. Well, we've all used this to remove a tie rod, let's admit it. But a pickle fork action just like this on a tool that it will separate these can be very helpful if you're saving these tie rod ends or you just want some mechanical advantage in getting them off. That was very helpful. So that's loose. About the only remaining connection we've got here is the steering shaft itself where it marries up to the rack. And there's splines there and there's a strap. We've got the bolt removed on the strap, but to help create a little separation with the splines, big fan of mechanical advantage. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get that up around the splines so that when we start muscling this rack down out, it may separate just a little bit easier. So one primary bolt left to go, and we'll be ready to get this rack over to John for a little bit of an inspection. But John's close by, because I got to tell you, this might take two guys. This might be a two-guy job, so get your buddy if you need it. Okay, second primary bolt is out, and I'm going to start working this loose. All right, there's the bolt. Now, the rack should roll, but you may need just a little bit more encouragement. Again, right tool makes a big difference here. Try to create a little movement. That PB Blaster's working down those splines right now. That should help our cause. Second set of hands here might be helpful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you got this thing all separated, ready to come out of here.
Yep.
Looks like we just got to pry it over here a little bit. You got the bolt holding. Now, when you're under here, it's probably a good idea just to go ahead and do a good visual inspection. You got all the other components right here. There you go. You're almost off a little more. You're on a little tab here. Yep. There it goes. Oh, the bushings on there. Perfect. Well, we're going to go ahead and replace those bushings. So, got to remember, these cars are old. You're going to have some problems with this. It's no big deal. While you're under here, take a look at the suspension components. You see our sway bar links and everything else that's under here, along with the suspension components. A good idea to go ahead and take a look at that while you're here.
And we disconnected the return line in advance. We did that down at the bottom. The pressure line we actually disconnected up at the pump. Honestly, it was just easier access. With those pre-disconnected, it allows the rack to come down in your hands.
You know what, Brian? We need a new rack.
I think so. Thanks.
All right, well, we got the old rack, but there's a few things we have to do before we install the new rack and pinion assembly. And Cardone sent this rack right here, which is ground, polished, it's ready to go. Remember we talked about that spool valve earlier? Well, the spool valve is actually computer balance, which is going to give you real nice when you're turning to the left or right. Now, we'll start out with the bushings. We want to transfer the bushings over from the old rack to the new rack, unless it comes with them. You can pop them out right here. I have both of these. You can pop them out, or Cardone supplied us with the actual bushings. What you want to do is just take them and go ahead and replace them on the rack. Now, another consideration is the tie rod ends. Remember we popped the tie rod ends off on the car? Well, you can see we got that side done, but over here, we'll focus on these. This tie rod end right here connects over to the spindle, and that's what actually turns the car. So unless you're replacing with new tie rod ends like we are, you're going to have to take this off. So what we're going to do here is basically just break this locking nut loose on the tie rod end. Once we break that loose, we can go ahead and unscrew the tie rod, the whole assembly off. Now I'm going to leave that lock nut there for a second because I'm going to show you a trick. What you want to do is you actually want to come over and you want to measure the threads. You can count the threads, or you can go get you some white out and put some white out right there. Now, why am I going to do all that? Well, these threads are going to determine where the wheel sit. That's an angle called toe. And I have my two tires right here. Now we can take these tires, and that tie rod is going to control the toe in. That's called positive toe. That's going to scuff the tires from the inside out. And then there's toe out. All right, when I'm toe out like this, that's going to scuff the tires just as bad. It's going to go like that, and it's called feathering wear. And toe is one of the critical tire wearing angles, so you want to make sure you get that right. Now we'll just come back over here, take this jam nut off. We're going to take this one to an alignment shop. No matter what you do, you're going to get it close, but because it's one of the most critical wear and tire angles, you still want to get the car aligned. Take that back to about where it was. And then what we can do is we can take our new Moog tie rod end. Our new Moog tie rod end actually comes with a Zerk fitting. We'll put that in because we want to supply grease, and that's nice because that makes it last even longer. You can get under there and service it and make sure it's in good shape. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to put that right back to where it was. Like I said, only to get it close. You still got to get in alignment. But believe it or not, if you're driving to the alignment shop and it's 2 or 3 miles away and this isn't close, you'll scuff some brand new tires before you even get it there. Then we'll just come back and snug this up and tighten it up. Make sure that's good and tight. All right, so we got our tie rod ends in, our bushings on. Last piece of the puzzle is the nut. When you're putting it back on the spindle, they supply you with this castellated nut and a cotter key. Think about that for a minute. This is controlled to your wheel. That's the only control you have over your wheel. So make sure you put the castellated nut back on. Just reverse the procedure, follow your torque specifications. This Mustang will be steering like brand new, but we have to address those control arms, and Brian's working on that right now.
Well, it never goes quite as planned, does it, John? Especially on a 25-year-old vehicle like our Mustang here. Now, we're removing lower and upper control arms on the rear end of the vehicle to create a lot more stability. Now, at the top of the show, we talked about 2 key words, contact patch. With worn bushings and worn control arms and sloppier tolerances, we're not going to get maximum traction at every corner of the vehicle. Now, all the work we've done on the front end to solidify the steering, now we're going to complement it with the back end to keep that rubber in contact with the road no matter what the driving conditions. The upgrade is the ProForm control arms, polyurethane bushings, 120,000 steel liner inside. These things can handle a substantial load that the factory control arms can't. So I'll get this side buttoned up, move over to the passenger side. We're going to take our time back here because this is big work, as well as the steering rack. So stay with us on Tech Garage, presented by Advance Auto Parts.